The concept of grey aliens as temporally displaced humanoids, TDHs, suggests they are not extraterrestrials, but future versions of humanity. This theory, popularized in fringe research, posits that the classic, large-eyed beings are our descendants who have travelled back in time. Their visits, often linked to abduction scenarios, aren't an invasion, but an effort to study or even correct a catastrophic event in their past, which is our near future. This speculative idea recontextualizes the UFO phenomenon, shifting the focus from an interstellar threat to a time travel paradox originating from within our own timeline. Psychic spies and the accidental time machine. It didn't start with a machine, it started with the mind. Back in the deep freeze of the Cold War, the CIA wasn't just looking for Soviet secrets. They were looking for cracks in reality itself. Under Project Stargate, the government recruited remote viewers, psychic spies tasked with seeing targets thousands of miles away. But then the data started getting weird. Viewers weren't just seeing across space, they were slipping through time. Documents explicitly mention temporal displacement. A viewer would describe a target, but the details were wrong for the present day, yet perfectly accurate for the future. They were accidentally predicting events that hadn't happened yet. This contamination wasn't a biological error, it was a strategic roadmap. Inside the darkest corridors of the Pentagon, the paradigm shifted violently. If the untethered human mind could naturally drift through the temporal stream, then time was not a fixed law, but a navigable terrain. The objective mutated overnight from containment to exploitation. They stopped medicating the subjects and started debriefing them. The goal was no longer to cure the glitch, but to stabilize the frequency, to build a mechanical door where only a psychic window existed. This marked the birth of operational chrononautics. Time became the ultimate high ground, a theatre of war where battles could be won before the enemy was even born. They weren't just looking to observe history anymore, they were preparing to edit it. The mirror that showed the apocalypse. While Stargate was hacking the mind, the Air Force was hacking physics. Now a Project Looking Glass. Officially, it was just an airborne command post for nuclear war, but insiders tell a much darker story. They claim Looking Glass was a device, a peering portal using geometry so advanced it was supposedly pulled from ancient Sumerian cylinder seals. The device didn't just let them see the enemy, it let them see everything. Past, future, possible timelines. But here is where the nightmare begins. The scientists noticed a feedback loop. The more they looked at a future catastrophe, the more their actions to stop it actually caused it. It's the ultimate observer effect. Consciousness wasn't just watching history, it was warping it. And what they saw at the end of the timeline wasn't a paradise. It was a genetic dead end, a future where humanity had evolved into something unrecognizable, something desperate. This terrifying glimpse into our own extinction is likely what triggered the next phase. A desperate scramble to physically travel back and fix the code. The children of Project Pegasus. So how do you punch a hole through the fabric of reality? You need energy, infinite stabilizing energy. This is where the ghost of Nikola Tesla haunts the narrative. When Tesla died in 1943, the Office of Alien Property didn't seize his trunks to suppress a death ray. They wanted his unified field theory. He had allegedly cracked the code for zero-point energy, the quantum vacuum that exists between atoms. This forbidden physics became the heartbeat of DARPA's Project Pegasus. According to whistleblower Andrew Basiago, Pegasus wasn't just running mathematical simulations. They were teleporting biological matter. But the chrononauts weren't hardened Navy SEALs or astrophysicists. They were children. The logic was clinically brutal. The adult mind is too calcified, too tethered to linear causality. Under the psychic shearing force of temporal displacement, an adult psyche shatters into madness. A child's mind, however, is plastic and fluid, accepting the impossible as easily as a fairy tale. Basiago claims he was one of these chrononauts, subjected to radiant energy fields to jump between timelines. He describes walking the fields of Gettysburg as a phantom observer and peering into chronovisors, screens that tuned into the past like a radio frequency. Yet these missions weren't for historical curiosity. They were infrastructure projects. We were laying the fibre optic cables through eternity. The US government thought they were conquering time, but they were unwittingly constructing the escape route. They built the bridge that our dying, mutated descendants, those temporally displaced humanoids, are now using to invade their own history. Evolutionary shadows and the grey phenotype. Now stare into the obsidian void of a grey alien's eyes and strip away the fear. Do not see a monster, see a projection. Biologists and futurists have long predicted the trajectory of human evolution, and it aligns terrifyingly well with the entity standing at the foot of the bed. This is not an invader from Zeta Reticuli, it is the inevitable output of human biology subjected to deep time and deep space. Consider the physics of our future. If humanity migrates to low-gravity environments, orbital stations or Mars colonies, for 1,000 generations, the body discards what it no longer needs. Heavy musculature becomes a caloric liability, bones thin into bird-like struts. We become frail. As the surface of Earth becomes uninhabitable, driving us into subterranean bunkers, melanin becomes obsolete. We bleach out into a pallid grey. Hair, once a shield against the sun and cold, disappears entirely. And the eyes? In the perpetual twilight of underground hives or the blackness of space, the pupils dilate permanently, evolving into massive, light-absorbing orbs to catch every stray photon. The grey is a masterpiece of efficiency, a creature where the brain has cannibalized the body. It is a biological CPU mounted on a withering chassis. We are looking at the culmination of our obsession with technology, where physical strength is irrelevant and intellect is currency. We are looking at our own grandchildren. But efficiency has a price. By editing out the chaos of natural selection, they have sterilized themselves. Their DNA, copied and resequenced for eons, is suffering from replicative fading. They are a copy of a copy of a copy, blurry and corrupted. They have optimized themselves into extinction, leaving them with vast intelligence, zero reproductive viability, and a desperate need for the original source code. Us, the harvest of the ancestors. This rewrites every alien abduction story you've ever heard. The blinding lights, the cold tables, the terrifying focus on reproductive organs. It isn't sadism, it's desperation. They aren't studying us like lab rats, they are mining us for spare parts. These entities are temporally displaced humanoids, our own distant progeny returning to the only source of viable, robust genetic material left in the cosmos, us. After millennia of environmental collapse and synthetic evolution, their DNA has unspooled. The grey archetype, large eyes, spindly limbs, grey skin, isn't alien physiology. It is the result of centuries of atrophy and life in subterranean bunkers. They are sterile, dying, and hunting for a cure. However, they cannot simply migrate to the 21st century. The grandfather paradox is lethal. One wrong interaction with a direct ancestor could erase their entire lineage. So they operate in the shadows, slipping into adjacent quantum timelines to extract the biological material they need to patch the holes in their crumbling genome. They steal eggs, sperm, and stem cells to graft onto their decaying forms. It is a terrifying closed loop. The CIA didn't cover up an invasion, they covered up the inevitability of our decline. We are currently perfecting the quantum technology that will eventually allow these dying descendants to breach the chronological veil. We are engineering the very bridge the harvesters will cross. They are here, silent and clinical, harvesting the vibrant past to stitch together a ragged future. We aren't victims of a war, we are the livestock for our own survival. A warning from tomorrow: the ocean of time is vast and we are just learning to swim. But the creatures washing up on our shores aren't strangers. They are the echoes of our own choices. The greys are a silent warning of what happens when we trade our biology for machinery, when we separate ourselves from the natural world until we are nothing but big brains in dying bodies. The alien invasion isn't coming from the stars, it's coming from our own timeline. We are the architects of the very monsters we fear. And if the whistleblowers are right, the clock isn't ticking down to an encounter, it's ticking down to a family reunion. If this theory warped your reality, hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the classified unknown. The truth is out there. And it might just be you. Until next time.